Pittsburgh Steeler fans, what is up? I'll tell you what's up, Tony Defeo. The Pittsburgh Steelers are they 1-0? Are they 4-3? What are they, Tony? Help me out.
They are the magical number of 7-0, but that's just the beginning.
Just the beginning, my friends, as they beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium at the Ratbird's Nest, a place that I swear I'll never go again. Never say never, but I don't plan on going again. But I tell you what, friends have stumbled on to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hangover on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. For those of you that don't know us, I'm Bryan Anthony Davis. Alongside me, Tony Defeo. We are both from BTSC and thrilled to be here today. Tony, how are you feeling, my man?
I'm feeling good. A little cold. I have my heat on for the first time this year, but it's November. And when it's November and the Steelers are still undefeated, that's a great thing.
As my family used to say, it's chilly out there and that. So, and I'm trying to tone down the accent because everybody says it's really bad. But hey, look, we are so glad that you are all joining us in the live chat. Lots of great familiar names. We're so proud to have this platform and have you along with us. Remember, we can't do this show without you. Tony, the Steelers won in controversial fashion yesterday, only in the minds of the Baltimore Ravens, but quotation mark, controversial fashion. So we're going to let them believe that. That's fine. And we're going to talk about that too. But for the first time since 1978, the Pittsburgh Steelers are, like you said, Tony, 7-0. And we know what happened that year. You had some big names, the Steel Curtain defense. It was a revitalized Steel Curtain defense. John Banaszak was there. You had Steve Furness on that line along with Joe Green. Dwight White was still there. L.C. Greenwood was still there. Of course, Lambert and Hall and Lambert and Ham and Blunt and Shell. They were all there. And that was just the defense. I'm not going to even have time to get started on how great the offense was. But this seems like a very special team on the other side. So many years later, 42 years later, Tony, if I could do my math correctly.
That's correct.
And it seems like a team that could do it as well. Now, it's a whole lot different story this year because there's no parity in the league and there's a lot of top heaviness with the Kansas City Chiefs right up there. They are at 6-1. They have not had their 7-1. They have not had their bye week. And you also have some other teams up there that are still dangerous, but now they have what I like to call a 2.5 game lead over the Baltimore Ravens at this particular juncture because they're 2 games in front of the Ravens, and right now they own the tiebreaker. With 9 games remaining, that's a pretty decent lead. That doesn't mean that they're going to run away with the division, but in another 3.5 weeks, if they could knock off the Ravens again, or if we could get help from maybe somebody like the Colts, they could be insurmountable, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I think we learned our lesson 2 years ago with the 2.5 game lead with six to go. So I'm certainly not counting my chickens before they're hatched. Anyway, they've really set themselves up with a great opportunity over the last 9 games. So winning that game yesterday on Sunday was huge because now they with the 3 games they have coming up and then they have Baltimore again on Thanksgiving. I mean, they really could have something really special by December.
So we have a lot of live chats and a lot of super chats coming in. If you want to get to the top of the queue with your question, we will be glad to go ahead and answer that. We have a few people that have done that. Isaac Aguilera, $5. Says, no controversy. Steelers are the better team. Lamar is bad at something you're supposed to be good at as a QB. Tough luck, Ratbirds. I agree with you. There's no controversy. But we're going to talk about what they think is controversy in a moment. So thanks for the $5, Isaac. I appreciate that. Also, Sean Manahan throws in, what do you guys think of the Avery Williamson trade that happened last night? I went to bed, didn't know about it. And I woke up this morning. I'm like, yeah, they pulled the trigger on that deal, and I was pleased on that. But We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. Thank you for the $2, Sean. I promise we will talk about that. We'll probably do that in the second half of the show when we go ahead and cover the Q&A portion of our show. So I promise we'll get to that. But right now, let's continue to talk about the groovy hangover that is beating the Ravens, Tony. So Isaac's right. There's not a controversy because they did beat this team. And Lamar Jackson did not play well at all. And my thing is, I thought that this team played a very undisciplined game. What are your thoughts on that?
Talking about the Ravens?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, very undisciplined. Yeah. I mean, was it Judon that got thrown out of the game for making contact with the referee? I mean, all the pass interference penalties. And of course, Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, I mean, he was responsible for all 4 turnovers that helped keep the Steelers in the game. So, I mean, if there's any controversy in Baltimore, maybe it should be a quarterback controversy after that performance by Jackson.
Yeah, now I don't think it will be.
Oh,
no. It was really interesting, and I heard this on Pittsburgh radio today too, that it looked like the play calling was absolutely ridiculous for the Ravens at the end of that game. If they go ahead and try that option play that works for them every single time, they're going to get in easily. They probably will. But they come out and they do Ben Roethlisberger's play. And they, wow, somebody's really going crazy down your street, Tony.
Yeah, every day. At least there were no 4-letter words that time. When at the there's always somebody screaming at somebody at the red light.
So, what I was saying there, if they do that, they're probably getting in. But it seemed like John Harbaugh was trying to let Lamar Jackson win this game with his arm, and he wasn't capable of doing it. He threw this game away with his arm, and Harbaugh threw this game away with the bad decision to try to stroke his quarterback's ego.
Yeah, I don't get that. I mean, they had no real answers for the Ravens on the ground yesterday, 265 yards. And if I'm John Harbaugh at that point in the game, I'm letting Jackson try to win the game with his legs. I mean, what difference does it make how you win it at that point? It was a big game for them. And you're right. Jackson made a lot of bad decisions yesterday throwing the football, and he just didn't have it. Is
this a team that Lamar Jackson can't beat? Now, he did beat them last year. Now, I'm not saying he didn't, but is this team at full strength a team that flummoxes this guy? Because I got to tell you what, Lamar Jackson last year, he did not run the ball as well against the Steelers when they played in Pittsburgh, and Duck Hodges almost won that game when he came in for an injured Landry Jones last year. So the Steelers actually fumbled that game away. So they didn't beat them clean. They beat them clean, but they didn't dominate them. They dominated the Steelers on the ground in this game, but the Steelers were still able to adjust in the second half. So my question goes back to my question to you. Is this a team that Lamar Jackson is going to have trouble with?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's he's going to have to figure them out, just like he's going to have to figure the Chiefs out. And then you want to talk about controversy. Last year there was controversy at the end of that game in regulation, the one in October at Heinz Field, when Ola Adeniyi was called for roughing the passer and that was really questionable, and that allowed the Ravens to kick a field goal to send the game into overtime. And I don't remember anybody revoking that win for the Ravens and costing them the number 1 seed. So John Harbaugh can talk about controversy all he wants, but it really doesn't matter at this point.
So let me put this up here. Sean Manahan gives us $2. Says someone give L Jack a terrible towel to cry on. LOL. You should, because maybe he'll stomp on it, and that will give the Steelers even more motivation. I would like to see that. But you're right. I just don't think that I live in Maryland. You know that. And I hear this all the time. We are public enemy number 1. I talk about all the time how Hines Ward is always going to be public enemy number 1. I think that they might have a new one now in Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think he has, stepped to the forefront of this rivalry now, especially with the very sweet kiss to kissed the Baltimore crowd. After the game, he waved goodbye to them and kissed them goodbye. And that's all they were talking about on Baltimore radio this morning as well. And I just really think that they're always going to look for scapegoats. They are always wronged. And it's funny because I've watched Lamar Jackson have a pretty good career at the beginning of his career with Baltimore, and 2 playoff losses, and they're ready to disown him every single time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get all the hoopla, or I'm sorry, all the controversy over that last throw. I mean, I thought both Minkah Fitzpatrick and Justin Lane made great plays on the ball, and it was actually a really good pass by Jackson. And if it gets through there, then he's a hero, and that's probably the greatest and most important pass of his career up to this point. But it wasn't. They made the defense made a great play, and that's it. I don't know, where Harbaugh and the Ravens fans and the Ravens themselves, I don't know where they're coming from. Maybe I'm just looking at it with black and gold glasses, but it didn't seem like it was that egregious of a play that they felt like they were cheated.
AJ Gavin Anthony says, bad. The same thing happens in Cleveland. He's absolutely correct. It really does. They're always looking for a scapegoat. Gosh, I mean, win one for Miles a couple of weeks ago because it was so egregious, and they're still being wrong. Also, I may have lost it here, but Rod L, here it is. Rod L says, I think Claypool will be public enemy number 1 for them. What are your thoughts on Claypool now? Again, in this Ravens rivalry.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he was blowing kisses to the crowd too. I know he fumbled at one point, but he did have the game-winning touchdown. Hey, we remember how Hines Ward got under their skin for many years, so I could certainly see that.
And Ebron had a great. Excuse me, not Ebron. Ebron had a great tweet as well. But the great tweet that came out from Claypool was losing, I've never heard of her, or losing, I don't know her. It was something like that
I guess
as well. Yeah. But, how quickly they forget the Steelers are off the field and the Ravens were gifted the first touchdown of the game when I thought that was a bad penalty. Now, my buddy said, yeah, they're going to call that every time. I'm like, I don't think so. Of course, they called Minkah for it at first, and though they did call Minkah on it, and then they ended up reversing it and giving the penalty to Cam Hayward, but it was not an egregious slam down out of bounds or anything like that.
Right. And that's the thing about a guy like Lamar Jackson. How often does he fake like he's going to go out of bounds and then cut it back inside? We saw that last year in the game in Heinz Field. I think they called to it for a penalty like that. And you saw later in that game, I think it was the first half, where Jackson was, he went to the sideline. He was trying to stay in bounds because he wanted to keep going. I mean, what's a defender supposed to do in that situation? I mean, if you stand there and assume that he's going to go out of bounds and he cuts it back up inside and scores on you, then it makes you look foolish. So I think there should be a little leeway when it comes to a player like Jackson, because they know what his strength is, and that's running the football. And again, as you said, it wasn't that bad of a play. I think Cam Hayward just shoved him out of bounds. It wasn't like he slammed him to the ground like they did with James, like the Titans did with James Conner a week earlier. So I thought that was a very bad penalty. I thought that was maybe the worst penalty of the game, honestly. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Steeler fan. I thought that was a very bad penalty.
And then Wes Hickok, good friend of the show, he says it right here. Jackson was trying to get more yards. All Hayward did was shove him.
Exactly.
And he also says with both feet in. So, so I thought that was a really bad penalty, and they let them back in. Joey Jr. says the referees suck. Yeah, I thought they were pretty bad. Joey, I really thought they were. But here's the thing. That game proves that you can't look at stats. The only stat that is necessary when you look at a Steelers-Ravens game is the win or the loss.
Right.
That's the only stat, because they were able to give up 265 yards. If they would have given up 268 on the ground, they lose that game. But 265, they were able to give up and get away with.
Right.
The thing is, they found a way to come back in that game. They're the most resilient Steelers team I've seen in a long time, Tony. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, look at obviously they were down Devin Bush, they were down Mike Hilton, and they lost Tyson Alualu and Cam Hayward during that game. So, I mean, they were really on the ropes the entire game, and especially when it came to defending the Ravens running game, and they were able to stay in it. And that's like us. Let's go. But it all goes back to the resiliency and obviously being opportunistic and taking the football away 4 times. I mean, it led directly to 1 touchdown. It prevented probably another one in the first quarter, and it led to the go-ahead touchdown early in the third quarter. So, it's remarkable how they were able to hold off the Ravens and get back in that game yesterday and ultimately win it.
And you know what? When we're looking at this game, Tony, it comes down to the fact that on 3rd and 6, first possession of the game, Robert Spillane, Spilly, or like I like to call him, the legacy because of his grandfather, and Jeff Hartman poo-poos that every single time I say it, but the legacy took it to the house right away for an interception, and the defense said, hey, you're going to have to run on us. And they didn't. They kept on trying to force that pass. Mm-hmm. If they keep on running, they're probably going to be fine. I don't know how you really stop that option play over and over. But there were a couple times where they did stop it and force a field goal at one point or force a fourth and goal at one point. They forced a lot of situations, so they were able to stop it enough to get it done. But Spillane had that big pickoff. You thought that would have changed things. You would have thought that Alex Highsmith picks off that ball. And Alex Highsmith came out today and said, I was coached and I was told that I need to go back more, and I thought I needed to go back more and go deeper on those plays, and that's why he was in position to pick that ball off. He could have had a second one.
Yeah.
If he was looking up in the air, he was going for a tackle, but if he's looking up in the air, he might have had a pick 6 himself.
Right.
So I really don't know. If I'm a Ravens fan, I'm a little upset, but I'm more concerned. And look, I'm not concerned that there's a problem with your quarterback. I'm more concerned that you don't have a team mature enough to handle the adversity of this loss. Because then Marquise Hollywood Brown sounds like, boy, must be in the genes, because it sounds like his cousin coming out and saying, hey, I forget what the quote was, but if you're not going to use us, why am I even in there? If you have, what's
the point of having soldiers if you don't use them?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
So if there's any controversy, it's the fact that he's mad. And there's controversy because Judon gets kicked out, and Judon did issue an apology and saying, I did not intentionally go after the ref. He was a little hot and mad, and, I don't know, but he is now a big player in this huge rivalry. Marcus Peters is going to be public enemy number 1 as far as, he was ridiculous in that game. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's fantastic. But the 2 headbutts on the same play, that the play that Judon got kicked out of?
I think so, on the sideline when they had the big melee on the sideline. Yeah.
So he tried to headbutt Deontay Johnson twice.
Right.
Marlon Humphreys he's a very good player too, and now he is even a bigger player now that he has COVID, and that's a whole other ball game too now, because come on, did they know that he had it beforehand? You would probably think they didn't, but it's Harbaugh.
I mean, think about all the undisciplined stuff that went on in that game and went on after that game, and even with Harbaugh himself, if this is Tomlin, people were talking about how he doesn't have any control of the team. So I mean, it's Marcus Peters. I mean, he's a great talent, but I mean, I don't know how much longer that guy's going to last in the league, because he's always doing and saying things that are detrimental to the teams. I mean, he got kicked off his college football team, which is crazy because he was a first-round pick. So, and Marlon Humphrey, I don't know. They said they get tested every day now. I think the day of the game too. So I don't know how that wasn't detected. But yeah, that could have some huge ramifications moving forward.
And here's the big difference between these two teams. Mike Tomlin has control of his team, and Mike Tomlin has players that are mature. You've got a young guy that's about to turn 24 or just turned 24, who's one of the leaders of your offense. And Highway to 7 throws in 199. Thank you, H27. Here we go. Juju coming on strong in this offense. Yeah, he really is. And the fact that you have Juju not putting those tweets out a couple of weeks ago, like the soldier comments from Marquise Hollywood Brown. And he's playing for a championship. He's not playing for himself. And God, he's got a lot of money riding on the season.
Right.
I mean, he's in his contract year and he's playing for a ring. And that is the main difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk more about that. And we're going to take your questions when we come back after the break here on the Steelers Hangover. If you're here right now on YouTube, just stick around. And if you're on any of our podcast platforms, anywhere you download your favorite podcast, switch over to number 2. Go ahead and download that, and we'll see you in a second. Welcome back to the Steelers Hangover. It is a Victory Monday. Tony Defeo, Bryan Anthony Davis. It's that Steelers Hangover, and it's a good hangover. We are feeling absolutely awesome. We know what we did last night. We know what we did yesterday afternoon. We watched our Pittsburgh Steelers go to 7-0 for the first time since 1978. And now they have a 2.5-game lead over the arch villain Baltimore Ravens. And it was a fantastic game. The title of this is The Steelers Win with Controversy, according to the Baltimore Ravens. Look, there's no controversy involved. They can talk all they want on how they were wronged. They lost that game, Tony.
They absolutely did. I mean, we've seen so many close games between these two teams over the years. It's going to come down, to a play or two over the course of the game. And we mentioned the silly, and I think silly and unnecessary roughing the or unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Jackson early in that game that kept the touchdown drive alive. So you could point to that play too and say if they don't call that there, which I don't think they should have, then Baltimore's punting and they don't get a touchdown, and that's 7 less points right there. So you can call it controversial all you want, but it's in the record books, and the Steelers are 7-0. And as you said in the first half of the show, they have a 2.5-game lead. They're in a great spot with 9 games to go.
Okay, let's start getting those questions in for the Q&A portion of the show. We're going to talk about the trade. We're going to talk about the injuries next as well. But I want to bring this comment up. Wes Hickok says, can we stop saying Tomlin won with Cowers guys now? 7-0. Then Ezra throws in, Tomlin, my coach. Look, these guys love Mike Tomlin. It came out the other day, best coach I ever played for. And we're hearing it a lot more. You think Eric Ebron's not loving this guy coming over into this situation? You don't think Avery Williamson's not going to be loving this guy because he lets his players play, but he keeps them knowing what the goal is. He has a team concept. He is a player's coach. It's not bad to be a player's coach, but he has that fine line between discipline and between letting these guys be players. So I really love what he's doing with this team. He's not going to win Coach of the Year. He's just not a Coach of the Year candidate. But what he is going to do, he is going to put himself in line in the equation to win a ring, and that's all that really matters. So before we get on to other things and get on to everybody's questions, let's talk about this. Injuries. Looks like the Steelers are dodging some bullets with injuries. The one I was really concerned about was Tyson Alualu, who is having a major year. Now, he went out very early in the game. Look, he's not the reason that they piled up all those yards. They still would have piled up a lot of yards if he was in there. They might have piled up less yards. But Bugs came in after a bad first half, really turned it on in the second half, had some huge plays. So it's nice to know that you've got something good in Bugs there, Tony, as well. And then you have Cam Hayward, who, look, I'm not really going to go ahead and allege anything, but there was some chat on BTSC that, boy, that was a veteran move. They're calling it a quad injury, but he was going to get penalized because he wasn't going to get down there in time. Mm-hmm. And he may have milked it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he is a veteran player. He saw an opportunity that he knew he wasn't going to get down there. It's no different than Mike Vrabel stopping the clock by intentionally putting 12 guys on the field to get a penalty. Right. So, there's some bending of roles, but we know that it's an MCL injury for Tyson Alualu. It's not considered to be serious. He might miss a game or two, but you're not losing this guy. Cam Hayward should be back next week.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's huge. I mean, Cam Hayward. I think we all appreciate him, but sometimes I think we forget just how important he is to that defense and how much of a wrecking machine he is in that defensive line. And to have him out, when you're down Bush and you're down Alualu for a couple of weeks, that would have been devastating. So I'm glad to hear that he's going to be fine, especially him even more so than Alualu, because I think they can get by without him for a couple of weeks, but I don't think they can get by without Cam Hayward for a lengthy period of time.
So Cree asks us this question: Bryan and Tony, what do you think Avery Williamson will be, starter or backup to Spillane? I don't think Robert Spillane is going anywhere. I think he is the starter right now. Tony, what are your thoughts?
I think he's a great insurance policy to pick up. He's obviously a rental player. He's going to be a free agent after this year, so he has great experience in the league. And if Spillane keeps playing the way he has, and I realize some people say that he didn't play well on Sunday. That he powered up the tackles because he had to, because the Ravens kept running on them. But I think he made enough plays yesterday that I think he deserves a right to continue to start. But having a guy like Williamson as a backup, or just to put him in the rotation, I think that makes that unit so much better. And none of those guys are Devin Bush, but I think when you have a veteran like that as your third man, I think that bodes well for them. And you're not going to have. It tells me you're not going to have a situation like you did in 2017 when you're signing guys off the street right before the playoffs. So it fortifies that position. Whether he's a starter or not, I don't think it really matters, because I think if he doesn't start, that means that Spillane's doing a great job. That's how I look at it.
With UG3 probably going on IR, I mean, I'm just thinking that's going to happen. He had back spasms last year and he lost the rest of the season. I hope he's better, but you can't have a bare cupboard in there. You get an established tackling machine for a 5th-round pick in 2022. Lots of things are going to change by 2022. You even get a 7th-round pick back in 2022. So you're basically dropping down 2 rounds.
Right.
You're not giving up a pick completely. You're just sliding down a little bit. Sometimes the difference between the 5th and the 7th round pick is coaching. And that's all it is.
Right.
So there's a possibility that works out for you. So you're not giving anybody up. I don't care if he's a rental player. You bring a guy in, like I said, he's established as far as being a very good tackler. He's coming into a great situation. He's leaving a tire fire in the New York, New Jersey metro area, and he's coming to Pittsburgh with a chance to compete for a Super Bowl ring. You don't think this guy is pumped to be here?
Yeah, right.
And the main thing that I haven't mentioned yet is Robert Spillane is not in there. He's not built in that position to be in there for close to 100% of the plays.
Right.
You've got to knock him down. I think they said today that he played in 65 to 70% of the plays yesterday. So you've got to knock that down. So this really doesn't change much as far as what they're doing. Robert Spillane's your guy for right now. And you have Avery Williamson that's going to have a lot of time in there. Think about it. Now, I know he's not the same guy as Devin Bush. He's not as adept at being dropping into pass coverage, but we saw what happened when a guy that was supposed to be not very good in pass coverage yesterday picked off one and went the whole way in Robert Spillane. So you never know what's going to happen, but you're deeper at that position. Now we've got another question. Donald Nolan asks this: Who do the Steelers drop off the active roster to bring Avery Williamson in? Right now, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be UG3 going to the IR. Tony, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that'd be the move. I somebody said that somebody else was going on the IR, and who was it? The guy that they Wormley. They said he was going on the IR, and that might be the guy that he replaces. I don't know, but I could certainly see either one. I mean, I guess it all depends on how serious the injuries are to Gilbert and Wormley.
Now this next question, Tony. This is a bad special. I love this question. Most people will say, who cares what number he wears? Reginald Rivers, I love this question because I've been thinking about it already. And I'm not sure because 54 is the number that he's had. It's taken. I could see him possibly wearing 45, maybe, Tony.
58. No, I don't know.
58.
Oh, that
59,
would
52.
That would really rile some people up. Yeah, 45 because Spillane has 41. So more linebackers are wearing that number now. Dupree has 48. So yeah, probably he'll probably want to have to get as close to his old number as he can possibly be.
Wes is saying maybe 51. Yeah, I mean that's not a bad number either. I'm just going to go with 45 because it's an interesting number. And plus, I've got a Rosie Knicks jersey that I just got last year that I could wear as a 45, and it'll look like I'm wearing my Williamson jersey when I've got a jacket on in the back, so no one would know. How about that one? So Reggie's saying 51 or 45. William Ramirez is saying, hey, Jerome Elliott wears 45, right? I thought he was wearing 90-something, but I haven't really seen him, so I'm not sure. So this has quickly gone to number talk, and I love it. And then somebody saying he wore 40 in college. Double HH is saying, how about 26? So looks like J. Roan is wearing 45. Somebody said Robert should wear 51. You know why Robert wears 41? I think you might have heard this yesterday, right?
I did not hear this.
The legacy. His granddad wore 40.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just impressed that he has you said his grandfather played for them in the 50s?
Yeah, so his grandfather, Mr. Latner, Johnny Latner, was a Heisman Trophy winner in 1953 from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So he's a Golden Domer. He won the Heisman. He was a number 1 draft pick of the Steelers. He went to the Pro Bowl in his first year as a halfback, went and did military duty in the Air Force. I don't know whether he was playing a pickup game in the Air Force, then got injured during that game and never played again. So he had one season with the Steelers, and it was a Pro Bowl season. So really interesting.
Oh no, I'm just impressed that his grandfather played that long ago. Because he's a young guy. I figured, that my grandfather would have played in the 50s if he played football. So yeah, that's an amazing ways to go back. That's crazy that he's wearing the same number.
My grandfather would have played in the 30s. But then again, I guess I'm old. So there we go. Nathaniel Zarate says, Bad and Tony, what week will this offense get going? Here's the great thing about this offense. I think it's already going, Nathaniel. I really think so. This is the best. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, they're average. They haven't scored less than 26 points a game all year. So, they've had their ups and downs, but they just have so many weapons that even when they have a bad half or so, it just shows you how good they are, how talented they are, and the importance of having Ben Roethlisberger back there now. Because, even when they look iffy, they can still put up a lot of points.
This is the absolute best defense that they have played all year. I thought this was a fantastic defense, and I think they're dangerous. I'm surprised that when they came out in the second half that they were able to get things going. But Ben said it today. He said, I started, playing backyard football. I started drawing up plays in the dirt. And guess what? It worked. But what worked for this team is when they went 5 wide, that helped this team so much because now you have Ray McLeod out there and you've got to go one-on-one go man with everybody. You can't be playing zone as much. You can't be doubling up anybody because Ray made it pretty tough for them. So going 5 wide helped open things up for the Steelers. And then you have such a great weapon in Eric Ebron. He's getting hotter and hotter. Ben, trust him. I think this offense is going. And I know they put 21 points on as an offense on the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. I think that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to play a defense like this again unless you obviously until you play the Ravens. So, they figured them out. Like you said, they spread them out. I mean, they were blitzing relentlessly yesterday. Ben didn't have a whole lot of time in the first half, so spreading them out really, really worked. And him playing a lot of, as he said, schoolyard football and just kind of making things up on the fly. I think that helped too. I mean, and that shows you how well versed he is in that offense now that he can just say, look, this isn't working. Let's just, let me kind of call the plays and I'm comfortable in knowing what to do. And I just, it's a testament to him and where he's at mentally and emotion, and obviously physically, but mentally as a quarterback in year 17.
Sergeant 5 or Sergeant V. Well, then when can the offense put 2 halves together? I'm looking at 2 weeks ago. They put 2 halves together against. They had a complete game against Cleveland. I'm not worried about this offense because they have so many ways that they can beat you. And the best thing about this team is they can adapt. And when they adjusted again, they were struggling with this team. They found a way to adjust. Look, I'd love to see them have more complete games, and I think they're coming. Right. I think this is a different team than we have seen in a long time. This is a team that can take a team like Jacksonville now. They could take a team like Dallas, who's struggling, and they should be able to put a complete 4 quarters against these teams. Now, there's a chance for a letdown. There's a chance for a letdown against Cincinnati, even though that game's in Pittsburgh. But Joe Burrow, look what he did to Tennessee yesterday. He's a good quarterback, and they've got weapons, and that team's growing there. That doesn't mean that they're a lock to beat Pittsburgh. Doesn't mean that Pittsburgh's a lock to beat them. But they're a team to look out for too, because you're in letdown city right now. There's a chance the next 3 games they could be let down. But if this team's who we think they are, Tony, they should go ahead and win the next 3 and be 10-0 going into the Thanksgiving game against Baltimore. Is it going to happen? Things happen in this league. You never know when there's going to be that letdown, but it just doesn't seem like that team in Pittsburgh right now is built for a letdown because they are so motivated and they are so focused. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, and they're playing together. They're resilient, as you said earlier in the show. I mean, if there's ever a year where they avoid that pitfall, it's 2020. And if it does happen, it won't be because they overlooked anybody or because they just thought they can throw their helmets on the field and come away with a victory. It'll be because something, sometimes those things happen in the NFL. But, I don't think this team is looking at any game as a trap game. I think they're going to be focused each and every week because I think, now they're getting to a point, dare I say, where they can accomplish something very special by, finishing the regular season 16-0. So they're getting to that point now where they're going to have to be focused each and every week. So I don't think this team is gonna, if they do have any losses this year to quote unquote lesser opponents, it won't be because they were overlooking them.
I agree. So, I mean, there's always that possibility, but I just don't think they're built for it. Like you said, Port Naquenba says, with the addition of BJ Finney and Fred Johnson, do you think the Bengals are trying to become the Steelers? If they add Colbert and Tomlin next season, I'm hosting a podcast named BTB Behind the Bungles.
From what I understand, that might be better than I'm not going to say anything. All right, go
ahead. We'll just keep it at that. I will guest on that the podcast, Portna. I would be glad to be your guest. Wes says that it is confirmed the MCL sprain, and Alualu is expected to miss no more than 2 games. That's good news there. It's also good news that and I guess they're saying that's per Jerry Dulac, Jerry Dulac definitely has his finger on the pulse. So that's something that I feel you could probably take to the bank there. Willie Johnson says Ravens have no problem with the Steelers. They dominated the Steelers in every category, including penalties, clean up the penalties and turnovers, and Steelers are done. Hey, I get it, but that's easier said than done. I don't know. Obviously, you're a Baltimore fan, and I have respect for anybody coming in my living room. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in. I just, if I'm a Ravens fan, which I believe you are, I'm almost thinking that that they need to clean up a little bit more than that. And what I'm alleging right now is I think they need a little more discipline on that team as well. And I think that could come. They have a fantastic coach who I can't stand, but I can't stand because he's good. Right. Tony?
Oh, I mean, their biggest issue is they have a reigning MVP as a quarterback who has yet to prove that he can win a big game. That's their problem. Maybe they are more talented than the Steelers. Maybe they are more disciplined than the Steelers. Whatever you want to say, Willie. But as far as the battle of the quarterbacks, they don't have the better quarterback. And when it comes to important games and in playoff games, it's who has the better quarterback 9 times out of 10. Those are the teams that win. And as much as I admire Lamar Jackson for what he's able to do and the all-around talent that he is, he has to prove that he can win a big game yet, and he has yet to do that. So that's their biggest problem. It's not the penalties. It's Lamar Jackson not proving himself.
And so now there's some back and forth with people going after Willie. Hey, look, I respect your opinion, Willie. Ravens rushed for 265 and held your rushing to 48. Yeah, they did. Like I said earlier in the show, they are a very good defense, and this is the toughest defense that the Steelers are going to play. As far as the other side of the ball, that's what they're built for. But when they need to pass, it was not completely working for them. Now, some of those passes were right on, but some of them were really bad. And right. As somebody else says in here, that Tarek Tadros says basically the Steelers forced those. So, I mean, that's one of those tomato things that we could look at. All I know is that on Thanksgiving night, that's going to be a battle too. And it's going to be even more of a battle, Tony. And I'll say that to you, Willie Johnson. I can't wait to see that game because I know the Ravens are going to be coming to play. The Steelers are going to be coming to play. That is going to be an absolute epic battle number 2. So there you go. I really can't wait for that. We're going to take one last question, and it was one I was going to ask Tony, and so I lost it, but so I'm going to ask it to you anyways, and whoever asked it will give credit to you later, and we appreciate the question. But first, let's take a super chat here. Highway to 7 gives us $4.99. Thank you. Lamar Jackson is an improved Cordell Stewart, amazing talent, but can't win the big game. He hasn't won the big game yet. I'm not ready to count this guy out, though. I think he's dangerous.
Yeah, I think he's good. Yeah, I think he's an exceptional talent. I think the ability's there. I think you saw that first touchdown pass. Vince Williams was covering the receiver in the back of the end zone, but I mean, I don't think anybody would have been able to stop that pass. It was perfect. It's just that, when it comes to the big games, he's come up short until he proves otherwise. That people are always going to doubt him. That's just how it goes in the NFL.
And it's really interesting because when you look at a guy like Michael Vick, this guy's faster. This guy can do some things that Michael Vick couldn't do. I thought Michael Vick was a better passer, though. And I really do right now. That might change. But I feel like the Steelers did flummox him as well. So we'll see, but it's going to be amazing. So the last question, Tony, it's a question for you. Tomorrow's deadline day. Are they making any more deals?
I think their big deal was bringing Avery Williamson, and I mean, if something would have been more grim with the injuries to Hayward or Alualu, I would have said maybe, but I don't see anything right now.
We just saw a trade today with Desmond King going to Tennessee for a 6th round pick. Desmond King is a talent. Now he's another guy that you can get right now. You can get these players right now. I'm also seeing that I did miss a super chat.
I'll see if I can find it
from before, and I do apologize. Is that it? I think it might be right here. And that's the problem because things go so fast. Yeah, here we go. I have it. Brett Mai, and thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate you. I apologize for missing this. 499. Ben never gets the credit being able to carry the offense when there's no running game. Calling his own plays and backyard ball, he took back the lead. I should give you 499 for that comment because that's an excellent comment. And that's exactly what he does. People, look, the national media don't want to give Ben Roethlisberger credit, Tony. They don't. And they're never going to. Right. Maybe they'll give it to him when he gets 3. Maybe they'll give it to him when he's done with his career. But the things that he did yesterday was a veteran QB that was able to come in and think. And he mentally won that game by knowing how to figure out how to beat this team in the second half. That the coaches have a lot to do with it, but that was Ben there.
Yeah, that's his leadership, or that's his veteran experience, 17 years, and that's why I'm never that worried. I like it when they can run the ball. I think that's important that they get guys like James Conner going. But when you have a quarterback like Ben and his talent and his experience and everything he's done in this league, if you can't if you stop the run, he can still beat you with his arm, and that's why a guy like that's so valuable to have.
So we've got another super chat here. 410 Carpenter Legend says, do you think we will play down to the Cowgirls? Absolutely not. I really don't think they will. I don't care if it's Ben DiNucci. I don't care if it's Andy Dalton. I don't care if Roger Staubach comes in. I don't care who comes in. I think this is a focused team. So I definitely think they're going to be ready for him, Tony.
Yeah, the Cowboys look really bad on Sunday Night Football. So people keep saying that they think that the Cowboys are going to have a chance in this game. And last I heard, the spread was like 9 points. I've seen stranger things happen, but I just don't see this being their trap game. I honestly don't.
There is such a discipline. There is such a motivation with this team right now. I don't think they're going to play down. And like you said earlier, Tony, if they're going to lose a game, they're going to lose it because they lost it or they're getting somebody hurt. But it's going to be not because they're playing down, because this team's not doing that right now.
Yeah. No, this is as you said, we're here now where there is no parity. It's a bunch of great teams and a bunch of bad teams, and I just don't see the Cowboys being able to match up with the Steelers right now. I think the Steelers know that they have something special going on, and they're not going to ruin that or have a bad day against a Cowboys team that quite frankly isn't in their league right now.
I got to tell you, Tony, I'm walking on air. The trade deadline's tomorrow. I don't care if anything happens tomorrow. We got a linebacker. We got a win yesterday. Now, Hass H says, Bad, I know you've made a lot of last-second deals at 2 a.m., so you never know with Kevin Colbert. You never know. Boy, I have a reputation. I'm not sure why.
Mr. 2 a.m.
But here we go. And Mule Skinner, I'm going to wrap it up with Mule Skinner. If we go 8-0, the odds go up greatly to go 16-0. I think this is a special team. We've been saying it all year, Tony. Let's wrap it up with that. Special team, Tony?
Very special team. This is obviously I've never seen anything like this in the entire time I've been following them. So I'm enjoying every second of this. I just want to experience this because it's a brand new thing for me.
I was 6 the last time this happened. I was a fan because my dad and grandparents and everybody were gathering after Sunday brunch, watching the game, and I was in there too. Then I was off playing. So, it's one of those things that I was a fan. I was wearing the gear, but that's it. I didn't know. I wasn't following standings. Since I've been following the standings, I've never seen them go 4-0 until this year. So this is amazing, and I've always wanted to see this. Like I said, I'm walking. It is a pleasure to be on this show every single week and all the other shows that we're on, Tony, because this is a great feeling. If you haven't had a chance to listen, Tony was on with the Desai guys over the weekend. He was absolutely fantastic. Great personality. I loved it. And these wins are making people want to talk to us outside of BTSC. So, Tony, great job on that show. Go ahead and download it. It just appeared last night, and it's already has over 1,500 downloads. People want to hear it. People want to hear what's going on with the Steelers.
Right.
If you want to hear more that's going on with the Steelers, check out BTSC for everything we have going on. And we're just not on YouTube. We've got the platform for the podcast only side, the audio only side. And Jeff Hartman, Let's Ride, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Phenomenal. Michael Beck tomorrow. It's going to be a great show. The live mic that bust out at 5 a.m. You know the Stat Geek and Dave Schofield is going to be buzzing. You've got the Scobro show tomorrow night. Know Your Enemies coming up this week. We're going to have somebody from Dallas. Not sure who yet, but we're going to have somebody. The Steeler Preview, the flagship show with the Oracle, Dave Schofield, with Jeff Hartman, with myself. That's going to be a lot of fun. We've got the Steeler Retro Show if you want to just go back in time. So many shows. I've missed a few. Factor Fiction, Steeler Rooting Guide. You've got the Aussies from down the land down under. You've got Brunch with Tony. You've got the Steeler pregame show. If I've missed any, I apologize, but check us out. And if you're listening on Apple, give us a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it. We really appreciate everything you guys do. Before I go, Lewis Damper gave us $1.99. I really appreciate you, Lewis. Conservative Connor equals X Factor Connor later. Yeah, you know what? I don't think it was conservative yesterday, Tony. I think it's the fact that that you've got to play to your strengths. And yesterday, nothing was working. Right. That's a good front seven.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't able to run that well again. He looked good really early on, but the Ravens quickly shut him down. But I mean, he's having a great year. Connor, before yesterday, was on pace for 1,200 yards. So I'm assuming he's still fairly close to that average. It's just, they didn't have it yesterday, but it's great. That's why it's great to have a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, because he can still beat you even if you stop the run.
Absolutely. Connor is going to be a major factor with this team as well. So we got to get going. We've had over 210 in the live chat at one point. It might have been higher. I just didn't notice because everything's going so fast. I love you guys. I love ladies, men out there. We're all Steeler fans together. I really appreciate everything that you do for us. Kathy says she misses Friday night. Well, here's the thing. Go on the audio platform and you have your choice of whatever you want to listen to on Friday night. Who knows? Maybe we'll have YouTube again on Friday night. We'll try to do something there. But there's so much here, and we can't do any of this without all of you. Thank you for being a part of our Steeler family. Tony, just when you think you've got all the answers,
we keep changing the questions. See you guys next week.
We're going for 8-0 next week, my friends. We'll see ya.